Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. Come on in, pour yourself a drink, and join us out on the deck as we inspire, encourage, and empower one another to live authentic, audacious, above only lives. It's all right here at the Beach House. Welcome to the Beach House with Mo and Steph. And today is a special day because it's just Steph. Monique is not here with me today. She had a bunch of stuff to do, but I really had this feeling inside that I wanted to come on today and just share some stuff with you guys because today is my birthday. Woo, woo, woo. Yes, today is my birthday. And I just felt this really strong prompting that I was supposed to give a gift. And so I'm like, well, Lord, what kind of gift am I supposed to give? And I just had this feeling that I was supposed to give the gift of encouragement today because we're all in this place where we can use some encouragement. There's so many things going on in the world, so many things happening all around us, so many negatives going on that we just need to be encouraged. We need to be inspired. We need to be motivated to just go out there and do the very best that we can do so we can receive the very best. You know, Monique and I are always talking about living your best life, getting out there and doing the very best you can do and receiving the very best that you can. And a lot of that starts with the thoughts that we process inside of us and just, how we view and see life. And so I wanted to come on here and just share some of the things that have really helped me to transform, because the Bible says that we are transformed by the renewing of our mind. And so I had to renew some things in my mind, but because I have done that, it has transformed me into a whole new person that I never saw before. So I just want to share a little bit of my story with you guys, and maybe it might resonate with you and help you to rewrite your own story, because that's basically what I had to do. So starting from the beginning, I was born with microphthalmos, which is basically a small eye. So I am totally blind in my right eye, legally blind in the left eye, and I have been that way since birth. Now, as a result of that, I grew up in a time, I guess, where we didn't have all of the stuff that we have today. There is a whole different climate. And so if you had a disability, you were kind of separated off from everybody else. And, it wasn't quite as inclusive as it is today. It was more exclusive. You know what I'm saying? So growing up in that environment, I always kind of had this deep feeling inside that, I'm okay, but I feel like I am this defective model. Like there's something wrong with me. And so that affected everything that I did. I always kind of overcompensated to prove that I was as good as everybody else. I didn't really have a off button. I was just going all the time, and whatever anybody else did, I wanted to do it. And I did. I did it. Not only did I do it, I did it better than a lot of people because I was just determined to prove and show everybody that, I'm just as good as you are. And that mindset, it served me to a degree because it allowed me to step out into the world and not limit myself. But at the same time, internally, it was always a little dark cloud hanging over because you're always trying to prove yourself and you're always looking for approval from other people. And so that stifles you because, hey, if I don't get that approval from them, then, who am I? So you're always going out trying to fit in and prove yourself to other people, which we don't need to be doing. And so I spent a a big majority of my time doing that. And, you know, I just felt like that was normal. And I didn't really realize that, if you're people pleasing all the time, it's going to affect you at some point. And it did. It did. But eventually, I grew up and Monique and I met each other and we forged this friendship and this sisterhood that, just kind of took a little bit of that pressure off because I'm like, hey, I have somebody in my life that, they see me. It was always important to me to have people see me. And I was able to meet an amazing man in my life that he saw me. And before anything, we were best friends. And I prayed for that too. I prayed for that relationship when I was a teenager and everybody was dating and stuff. I was always like, Lord, will you send somebody to me? Because back then everybody was like, I don't want to talk to you. You look weird or whatever. So I was always praying for somebody to come into my life that would see me for me. And that happened. And I met John Seidel and we were best friends. We could talk about anything. And, he became my husband and we had a family and three amazing children. And life was good. Life was just really, really good. I was satisfied with it. Was I satisfied with my vision? No, I was never satisfied with my vision. And that was always like this little contention between me and God. It's like, okay, Lord, I love you and everything, but you made a mistake on this one because look at me. I'm not supposed to be like this. So there was always this thing of me and God going, well, not him, but me going back and forth with, I think you messed up on this one. And if you could fix it, that would be really good because clearly you were off the mark. So graciously, he always ignored all of my stuff and, just let me be me. But fast forward 32 years later, and my husband was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 cancer, and he passed away in 2018. And that was, I think, one of the hardest things that I ever had to accept and go through. You think going through your entire life with a disability would be a big thing, but no, man, compared to losing my best friend, my husband, it was I didn't know how I was going to recover from that, honestly. I didn't think I would. And what it did, actually it didn't do anything at the time. I was still in it. Just feeling that loss. But I remember thinking, what am I going to do now? I don't know how I'm going to do this thing by myself. And I don't know, it seems like whenever we're going through stuff, the enemy is right there to compound it because his goal is to steal, kill, and destroy, right? So if you're going through something, that's not the time that you're going to get the rest and the reprieve. That's the time that more stuff is going to pile on and pile on and pile on. And it did. 2 months after my husband passed, after, going through a whole year of, praying and believing and hoping that things would change, and they didn't. Well, 2 months later, our youngest son gets diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and within a week's time, he's paralyzed from head to toe, and he's laying in the hospital in ICU on a ventilator. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell has happened? How is it that, 1 minute everything is great, and the next minute it's just, it can't get any worse? But that's the cool thing about a solid foundation of faith, is even when things seem at their absolute worst, there's something inside you that just says, I can hold on. I can get through this. And so that was my focus. I'd already lost my husband, and I don't know, I think this Sasha Fierce, alter ego took over, and I said, I'm not losing my son too. And it's almost like I went into this warfare with the devil, and it's like, you might have gotten that one, but this one, you're not going to get. We will fight. We will box it out. We will do whatever we have to do, but this one, you take your hands off my son. And I just got vigilant. I didn't even know where it was coming from, but I just got vigilant and said, nah, it stops right here. And thankfully and prayerfully, my son began to come back, and he began to heal. And it was a long process. It took well over a year. And that was a miracle in itself, because the doctors told us, that with his age and stuff, he would probably recover, but it would probably take about three or more years. And for us, it was, maybe a year and a half. And so that was a blessing in itself. But after these two major devastating things, then I found myself in a place where, okay, now what are you supposed to do? What is next? I don't even know. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I don't know how I'm going to do it by myself. And a lot of you might be in that place where you're wondering, how am I supposed to move forward? How am I supposed to go to the next place? I mean, I lost everything. I don't know. And that's the time again that we really just have to dig in and pull from what's within you. What are you going to do? Are you going to trust that God has a bigger plan for you? Or are you going to just believe that I got all I can get and this is it? And that's where a lot of people find themselves, at this crossroads of giving up. You see so many people that they take their own lives because they gave up. They didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. They didn't see any hope around the corner. And they just got so overwhelmed that they gave up. And I understand that, because I felt that way too. Right after one of the things that John asked us to do was to take a Disney cruise, because he and I took our 25th anniversary on the Disney cruise. And the whole time we were saying the kids would love this, the kids would love this. So just before he passed, he said, Steph, you have to take the kids on the cruise. And so, I promised him I would do that. And as soon as Noah was able to, use a walker and, a wheelchair and be able to be mobile, I booked that Disney cruise and we went. And we had veranda rooms, and I remember standing outside looking over the balcony one day, and I just started thinking, and it was so heavy. I just started thinking it would just be so easy to just go over this edge and just be done. And I just remember standing there just staring at the water as the ship was moving, and I'm just staring at the water. And I just kind of came back to myself, and I'm like, that would be the most suckiest vacation that my kids ever had. And I just kind of snapped myself out of it. And I'm like, what are you thinking? I'm like, no, nah, Satan, get back. We're not going there. We are not going there. But I understand how easy it is to get so overwhelmed and so covered in this heaviness that you just feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to keep fighting. I don't want to keep going. But that's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell, because just around the corner, just around the corner, God has something for you. He has something better for you. But we have to be able to stay in this place that we can believe that something good can happen and something good will happen. And it was about that time that I started thinking when I got back, all right, what is my life going to look like now? Because I didn't have time to really grieve and process the loss of my husband, because I went right into another battle for my son. So I had to fight for him. And so I didn't have the time to even process the fact that I was a widow now. And that started to come to me in like about that second year, because things were starting to, things were improving with Noah now, and he was doing well with his physical therapy, and I knew he was going to recover. And then all of a sudden, this whole heaviness hit that you're alone. And that was a lie in itself, because I wasn't alone. I had my kids, I had my family, I had friends. So I was never alone. I had my father with me. I was never alone. But again, that's the first thing the enemy tells you. You're all by yourself. You are never alone. Never alone. Even if you don't know one single person around you, the Holy Spirit is in you. So you are never, ever alone. So take that down as a note. I'm never alone. I might feel like I'm alone, but I'm never alone. But, we hear all these things about narcissists and all this stuff now of how they isolate you. Well, that's all the enemy tries to do, is make you feel isolated, like you don't have anybody, but you do. You always have somebody. There's always somebody there for you. So we're never alone. So I started thinking to myself, what do I need? What do I need to do? What is my life going to look like now? What who am I even, without being somebody's wife? I've been in this place for so long. I don't even know what it looks like to do anything else. And on top of that, I'm starting to feel like I'm back in high school again, wondering, how I'm going to manage with my disability. All of a sudden, I hadn't felt disabled for well over 20 years because my husband and I had such a great system that we had together. And all of a sudden now I'm feeling disabled again. And so I had to figure out how to get past that. And I started just praying and just meditating and spending time with the Lord and asking, who am I now? And he asked me some questions, what do you want? What do you even like? And it took me a while, but I came back to my love of music. I've always loved music. Music has always been that thing that brings me a calm and a peace. And so I talked with a couple of people, and I remember one of our mentors for our business said, "You should take yourself on a date." And I thought, I don't know about that. What is that going to do? But I decided, okay, well, take myself on a date. I don't know how that looks, but I decided to go to a concert. And I went to a Babyface concert and I went by myself. And I was terrified. I was terrified because I hadn't really done things by myself. I always had somebody there with me. John was always with me, or, my family was always there with me. So I hadn't really done anything by myself. So I thought I'm going to have to navigate and do all this stuff. And it was terrifying, but I said, I have to do it. And so I went, and I was really pleased with myself because I didn't die. I actually survived and I enjoyed the concert, and I'm like, okay, I gotta do more of this. And it was at that time that I came across something, and I just really have to give thanks to the Lord for that as well, because He always sends you exactly what you need, who you need, when you need them. I have found that to be true when you stay plugged in and you keep Him at the center. He always gives you what you need when you need it. It might not be when you want it, but it always shows up when you need it. And it was at that time that I went to a conference at my church, and one of the speakers that I heard, I just really vibed with what she was saying. And I looked her up afterwards and found out that she was a master life coach. And I got in touch with her, and I did some seminars with her and stuff. And I ended up going through her certification program, which was a huge change for me in that place, because I had never invested that kind of money into myself. Is other things, but not for myself. And it was during that time that I learned about how important it is to invest in yourself, how important it is to fill yourself with things that are positive, with things that are feeding your spirit, your mind. So I really have to thank the Lord for putting me in contact with Hannah Keeley, because she changed how I saw so many things. She changed my whole outlook because she showed me how important our thought life was, and how our thoughts and the things that we think about ourselves shape our lives. And we don't recognize how awful a lot of our thoughts are. They really are. They're damaging because we put ourselves down and we think, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough for this, or why would somebody want to be involved with me, or whatever. We go through these things where we just have such damaging negative thoughts, things that we would never say to other people, but we say them to ourselves and they play out in our lives. And so, working with her, I just really learned how to channel that and how to give people the freedom that they need to be the people that they are, and the expectations that we put on others and the expectations that we put on ourselves. And it really transformed me. It really changed me and allowed me to go to a whole nother level in my life. And doing that, just taking the time to just make an investment into myself and my growth and my learning, it really changed things. It really changed things for me. And I'm so thankful for that experience because I don't even do I don't even do things the way I used to anymore. I don't think the way I used to anymore. I don't put expectations on other people the way I used to make me feel better. And it's been such a change in my life. It's been something that has caused peace and growth. And I so appreciate that. I so appreciate that because I went from not knowing how I was going to do life to this excitement and this expectation for life. But again, when you have that revelation, don't think it's going to come easily. Don't think it's going to come without challenges, because in comes the adversary again to try and knock you off of your game. So, brings me up to current time, and I look at the last 2 years of my life and this past year, especially, and I have had so much growth, so much just positivity, and so much focus on becoming this person that I want to be. And I had this thing where every year I would choose, a word to focus on. And I remember one of my words, I think it was for 24, was bold, boldness. And it was at that time that I started to experience some more challenges with my vision. I had gone all my life with my vision being the same and never changed, never had to really be concerned about it or anything, pretty much stayed the same. And all of a sudden I started to notice that things seemed a little more cloudier, they seemed a little more foggier, and I went in and I had to see a few different doctors to kind of get to the prompt of it, but it turned out that it was dealing with like glaucoma. And so that was causing the fogginess and stuff. So I had to start taking these drops and everything, but I noticed in that time that my vision had just really changed significantly. And I was at this place where it's kind of of a crossroads of what are you going to do, because you could shrink back and just kind of shift into nothingness, or you can again fight for the life that you want. And thankfully, because of the growth that I had experienced in the work that I had put in over the last few years, I chose to go ahead and fight for the future that I want. And things had really changed significantly for me. And it caused me to have to deal with some old issues that I had, which stemmed back from trying to fit in and be like everybody else that I thought was perfect, and I wasn't. And it's funny how God does things because the very thing that would have caused me fear before was the very thing that opened me up now. And I experienced that fear. I had a brief moment to where I started wondering, what if I lose my vision? What if I can't see anymore? How's that going to make my life? And as I started to experience more changes and more decline, all I did was want to stay home. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to go to places by myself because I had actually started working on, just going places alone, and I was doing a great job at it. And then this happened. And now all of a sudden I'm feeling like I don't want to go because it's going to be such a challenge. And I remember feeling like, I would go to the store and, just kind of look around in Hobby Lobby and, go shop and do stuff on my own like that. And it got to the place to where when I got in the store, I couldn't see stuff like I used to. And it was it was really devastating because that's my thing, I love to shop. I love to shop, and it's like I told my daughter one time, I don't like this because it's taken away my ability to browse. I used to just look around, and it's like, oh, what's that over there? Let me go check that out. Let me go check that out. And all of a sudden, I couldn't see any of that stuff. And so I'm like thinking to myself, well, what is the point of even going if you can't tell what's around? And so I really battled with that for a little while. And I kind of had to dig in again and remind myself, what kind of life do you want? So I got on the internet and I started looking and researching, what kind of things do they have for visually impaired people that can help. And thankfully, we started getting into all of this AI stuff now. And I found a few apps that really were game changers for me, the Be My Eyes app and the Ira app, because both of those allowed you to connect with a live person and just they were able to look through your phone or whatever and see what you were seeing and be a guide for you. And so I I had that app for, I think, a year, and I'd never used it because I was afraid to. And one time I went out to flew out to California to go home for a little while, and I thought, well, I'm at the airport. Let me use the app. Let me try it. And it was so amazing. It's like they're like, "Hi, I'm so and so. How can I help you?" And, they're hooked up to GPS so they can see exactly where I was at. And they're looking through my phone. And I said, "Well, I need to find gate such and such." And they're like, "Okay, can you lift your phone up and pan it to the left?" And, "Oh, okay, there's a sign. Let me take a shot of it." And they're like, "Okay, well, we're at this place now. So let me look at the GPS." And, they're literally guiding me through the airport, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And so I had to start using my cane at that time. And, again, this was 24. And I had to start using my cane. And I started it basically because I still didn't think I needed it as much. But I thought, well, maybe it'd be better for me if other people saw it because I'm getting evil looks from people because they think I'm either cutting them off or ignoring them or whatever. So my first thought, well, is I don't need it, but if somebody else sees it, then at least they'll understand that I'm not trying to be weird or funny or something. So I started carrying it. But for me, remembering that I did not want to be in that grouping of blindness, I was trying to fit in my whole life. So for me to have to start carrying the universal symbol of blindness, that was not something I wanted to do. That was something I definitely did not want to do. But again, I'm having my conversations with the Lord, and I said, okay, I got to humble myself and do this because I I need help. And that was one of the hardest things for me to come to grips with is asking for help and recognizing that I needed help. And so after doing that, I realized that when I went out with my cane, that I didn't get as much, kickback from people. They were actually pretty nice and helpful at that. And so it was a very humbling experience to realize that you do need help and you do need to ask for help and you need to put your pride down and do whatever it is that you need to do to make your life better. And so it was from that time that I started to say that okay, my word for this year is going to be boldness. That means I have to step out and do whatever it is that I have to do with my head held up high and my shoulders back and an attitude of this is what I need and I don't care what anybody else thinks. And it was it was a practice that I had to do. And I I I get involved. I do these jazz getaways that Brian Culbertson does. I found this group that they're into music like I am, and they do these little getaways in different states, and it's just like 4 days of amazing music and hanging with people and stuff in different cities, and I chose to do that by myself one time too, but thankfully my daughter went with me at the last minute to the very first one. And I thought, I'm gonna do this by myself because I want to. I want to go. And she ended up going with me, thank goodness. But but that was the first time that I came up with this slogan of own the room. And I thought everything you do is a practice because it's unfamiliar. And so when something is unfamiliar, the only way that it becomes familiar is if we practice it. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. You don't just get confidence. You don't just become secure. You don't just all of a sudden, I'm cool with me, When you've been doing something away for so long, you have to intentionally work on changing it. So that was what I set out to do. I said, when I go someplace, whatever it is, wherever it is, I have to own the room. I have to walk in with my head up, shoulders back, and act like I own this place. And at first, when I said it to myself, because it kind of came to me Holy Spirit wise, but the first time I said it to myself, I thought, I don't know how to do that, especially when I can't see where I'm going. I don't know how to do that. But it just kept ringing in me. It kept ringing in me. Own the room, own the room. And so when I went to Chicago to the jazz getaway, I thought, okay, this is where I'm going to practice. And so every place I went, I pulled my shoulders back, lifted my chin, and I stuck that cane out. And I said, okay, I'm going. Let's go. And I said, you have to look at people, look them in the eye, and talk to them as if you are the stuff, basically. But I did it. And when I got home, I was very proud of myself. And I said, okay, you did it that time. Because my thought was, I don't really know these people. So, it's not like they know me or I know them, so I can practice. So and so when I got home, I was pretty proud of myself. And I told my group that I was in, my life coaching group, and I told them what I did and what my purpose was and why I was doing it. And they gave me all this encouragement and everything. And they're like, yeah, you did it, you did it. And so I said, now I have to keep doing it. I have to keep doing it wherever I am. And that was the goal, to just walk in boldness, walk in boldness. And so when 25 rolled around this past year, my word was freedom. I wanted to focus on being free from opinions and what other people thought. And so I knew that in order to do that, I had to continue to own the room, continue to own the room. And somewhere along the lines, as I was doing that, something shifted inside of me. And I began to get this appreciation and this love. And I had to say love because that's what it was. I began to get this deep appreciation and love for myself. And that was something that I never had before because I always felt like the defective model, like something was wrong with me. And as much as I heard the Lord doesn't make mistakes, everything is perfect with Him, I never felt that way before. I always felt like, yeah, you did make a mistake here because I'm this vibrant, outgoing, independent spirit, and you have caused me to be dependent. So obviously, that was a mistake. And as I worked on owning the room, as I worked on freeing myself from other people's opinions and just went and did, I started to get this love for myself and this recognition that you're fine. You are absolutely fine just the way you are. There's nothing wrong with you. And it took me 5 decades. It took me 5 decades to get to that place. But I always say it doesn't matter how long it takes, just as long as you get there, because there are so many people who never get there. They never get to the realization and the recognition of who they are and that they're beautiful and perfect. And I did. And it took something that could have broken me and set me back and isolated me, but it got turned around. And that challenge is what caused me to finally see myself for who I really am. And that's beautiful. And over the time also I was able to just open up and just enjoy my life. I was able to see so many things that I still want to do and am going to do. And somewhere along this past year, in finding that recognition, I started to write a book. And, the it wasn't something new. The Lord told me I was supposed to write a book years ago, but I never saw it because I was thinking, well, what do I have to say? What can I share with anybody? But in this past year of life on this earth, I realized that the journey that I have been on, that is a journey that needed to be shared. And I didn't want to just share it with anybody. I wanted to share it with my younger self. I wanted to share it with that young girl who was insecure and feeling like no one would ever see her and no one would ever love her because she was different. And I wanted to share that journey with that person. So I started to write, and I started to write to younger me, high school me. And I came up with all of the things that I have learned over this past 5 years of life. And I put it into words that a young girl could understand and relate to. And I tied it into, one of my favorite Disney movies, Tangled. Because when I saw that story, I saw somebody who was royalty, but because of the circumstances of her life, being kidnapped by a crazy nut, she didn't think that she was anybody. She thought she was just average and underwhelming, when in fact, she was royal. She belonged to the king and the queen. And she ended up finding her way back to who she really was. The fact that she was kidnapped as a baby never changed her status. She was always royal. She was always something special. Even though she didn't realize it, she was always something special. And so I'm excited about that. I'm in the editing stages right now. So 2026 is going to see this book come to life. And I'm excited that I was able to share a lot of the things that caused me pain and trauma and suffering, but it made me who I am today. It made me someone who now can see how amazing I am, how beautiful I am, how loved I am. And I want to share that with young girls so they can get it a whole lot quicker than I did because it took me a while. But again, doesn't matter how long it took. All that matters is that it did take. And I am able to see it now. And that's it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing. And I was also able to meet someone in the process. When your spouse passes, you think, will I ever meet anybody again? Will I ever even feel like I want to meet somebody again? But I was able to meet someone a couple of years ago that helped me to feel pretty and beautiful again. And that meant that meant a whole lot. That meant a whole lot. It still does, because it's just another part of the healing process. Like I said, God always brings you the person or the situation that you need right at the right time when you need it. And one of the things that he told me was that at the right time, in the right place, I'll make sure that you are seen by the right person. And I held on to that and I believed it. And, it's just, there's just so many facets, so many things that life brings. And as I sit here today on my birthday, I can't help but think about all of the places that he has brought me from, all of the things that he has brought me through, the journey that I have been on that has made up my life. And it's been a great one. And I can't wait to see what this next year of life is going to bring. But I know this much. I know that my mindset is in a place to where I am expecting, I'm expecting good things. I'm expecting his goodness to go before me. I'm expecting, I'm just expecting, I'm expecting that God is going to do great things in my life, and he's going to take me to heights that I never even imagined. It's not over. I see so many people that as they age, they just feel like I have to shut down, and my best days are behind me and I don't have anything to look forward to. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. Every day that we have breath in our lungs is an amazing, phenomenal day. Even if it's a bad day, there's so much that is available for you. All the pains that you go through, all the sorrows, all the challenges that you go through, if you allow him to, God will take those things and he will work them out for your good. It says all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. There's times when we look at things happening in our lives and we don't see how that could possibly be good. I didn't see how it could possibly be good that my husband was taken from me with cancer at such a young age. I didn't see how it could possibly be good that my healthy young son could get this autoimmune disorder that, almost took his life. I didn't see how being visually impaired could possibly have anything good to do from it. But it has. He has taken every one of those things, every one of those hurts in my life, and he's turned it into something good. He's caused me to learn things that I never would have learned had I not gone through those things, he's shown me how to grow from them. See, you know, we get into these things where we sometimes think if you're a Christian, that makes you immune from things happening, but that's not scriptural. The word says that there will be challenges, there will be things that happen in your life. But he said, be of good cheer. I have overcome them all. And what does that mean? That means that though you may go through the fire, you're not going to end up burned. You're going to come out and you're not going to smell like smoke because he's going to get you through. Yeah, things are going to happen in life that are unexpected, and they may be hard. They may be something that just causes you to just want to just break into pieces. But I guarantee you that if you keep your faith and you hold on, those pieces, they will get put back together. And not only will they get put back together, but they'll be better than they were before. I couldn't see how things were going to work out better for me, but I have done so much in the past 7.5 years. I have gone and done so many things. I have done way more than in this past 7.5 years that I did in the whole time that John and I were married. And, I don't look at that as a bad thing, like, well, you guys just never did anything before. No, I look at it as this is just how much that God has opened me up to the possibilities of what's available to me. The sky is the limit, there is no limit except the one that I put on. And he showed me how to take those limits off. And he can do the very same thing for you, no matter how hard life might seem like it is for you right now. There's a way up, there's a way out. You just have to be willing to take it. And you have to be willing to put in the work because it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that, oh yeah, it's a piece of cake. No, you have to put in the work. You have to practice becoming that person that you want to be. It doesn't just fall into our laps. You have to, one, decide, who do I want to be? What do I want my life to look like? And then you have to live into that space. And it's unfamiliar and it's scary. And sometimes it's downright frightening to take a step out when you can't see what's in front of you, literally and figuratively. But when you do it, I have found that once you take the step, he's always there waiting for you. I look at that and I think, well, Lord, you have to show me where to go first, and then I'll take the step. But that's not faith. Faith says, you take the step first. And when you take that step, I'll be there waiting for you. And that's what I have found. That's what I have found. I had to step out first. I had to take the first move. And when I did it, he was always there waiting for me. And I'm talking about, my vision now. Sometimes I feel like I'm looking through, a fabric softener. That's that's how things look sometimes to me now. But I'm still going. I'm still doing. I'm getting in an Uber with a strange person I don't know. I'm relying on somebody that I don't know to tell me where to go. But you know what? Whatever it takes, I'm thankful that these apps are here. They weren't a few years ago, but they are now when I need them. So that is my birthday gift to you today, is encouragement that, yeah, things might be challenging. They might be hard, but you are so much bigger than your challenge. You are so much braver than your fears. You are so much more capable than what you believe that you can do. And so I challenge you today on my birthday, whatever it is that you want to do, look at it and figure out how I need to do it. And once you find the steps, be brave enough to do it. Practice it. Practice being the person you want to be. And I guarantee you will get there. You will become that person. But it takes practice. So that is my gift for you today on my birthday. I hope you were encouraged. I hope that, my story, my journey is able to give you a little inspiration, give you a little motivation to go out there and write your own story. And for goodness sake, man, whatever you do not buy into that lie that you're getting older, so you have to shut down. Nah, man, this is when we turn up. This is when we turn up because we've got experience behind us. And it's time to put that stuff into use. It's time to put that stuff into use. So, thank you for being with me here today. Thank you for celebrating my birthday with me today. And I promise you, I am looking forward to another phenomenal, amazing year. Look at in 26. I got a cruise coming up in February. My son is getting married in April. I have a jazz getaway to Napa coming up in June. And in October, another one in Hawaii. And who knows what else is going to come up in the middle of all of that. And I have another thing that I have to keep a lid on right now because that's what I was told to do. But I am super, super excited about that too. And very soon I will be able to share it, but I can't right now. So, so hey, if you found this encouraging, please share it with somebody. Please share it with somebody who's struggling, who is needing some encouragement in their life. And hit that subscribe button for Mo and I. We are doing our thing. We are coming up and we are so excited about this new year coming up. We're going to take a little break for Thanksgiving, and we'll be back in December to wrap this year up with a pretty bow and get ourselves ready to conquer and handle 2026 with the utmost of positivity and expectation. So I love you guys. Mwah! Happy birthday to me. And I will see you all next time at the beach house.